Hello, this is Akwesi Opong coming to you from Sunlight Radio Online. We are very grateful that you've made some time in your day. It's another Thursday evening, and we're coming to you with another resource for you to help you build your relationship and also to thrive. We're very excited. We hope that you are making great progress in all your goals, not just relationship, but everything that pertains to you. And we are glad to play a small part in this to help you arrive at your goals. So as we gather tonight, just reach out to some friends, let them know the show is on. And I will be back to tell you about what we're discussing today. Something very, very exciting, and I look forward to getting into the details with you. We'll be right back. Hello again, and thank you for joining us. It's I had pointed out earlier. My name is Akwesi Opong, and we are coming to you on Sunlight Radio Online, and we do archive all this resource on our website, which is enjoylifewithyourspouse.com. We love to talk about relationships and all the ideas and resources that will help you grow and thrive in your relationship. As I've mentioned many times, the name of our ministry comes from that very popular scripture reading that talks about our relationship with our spouse. And if I might get into that, it's something I'm going to read earlier, but it's Ecclesiastes 9:9. It says, "Enjoy life with your wife, whom you love, throughout this meaningless life that we've been given under the sun, all the days of your futility. For that is your allotted portion in life, and in your labor that you work under the sun." So we have swapped the word wife for spouse so that we learn to enjoy life with our spouse. So today we want to talk about something very special. My wife and I put together a small booklet, and we want to review the highlights of this booklet. And the title of the booklet is Building Friendship in Your Marriage. Why is this so important? Because we realize that sometimes, somewhere along the line, in the very elements that really got us together, we met somebody, we like the person, we build friendship with them, and over time, that friendship grows into dating or courting or however you want to call it, and then it eventually ends up in marriage. But sadly, we somewhere along the line drop that whole friendship part of the relationship, and that is what started this whole process in the first place, where we married our best friend. So tonight, our goal is to help you get back to some of those things you did that develop friendship. And whilst you're in your relationship, there are certain things you have to keep doing. When a plane takes off to a destination, there are certain things the pilot keeps doing to keep the plane up. They keep doing certain things. I don't know exactly what those things are. I'm not a pilot, and I have no clue what they do, but I know they keep their eyes on the instruments. At the bare minimum, their eyes should be on the instruments that will guide them and tell them where they're going, the wind speed, the direction, the altitude, and their proximity to other airplanes and all of that. So what we're going to do today is to help you keep your eye on some instruments that will help you guide you through what is ahead. And keeping our eyes off these things will really start to set in that feeling of complacency and being taken for granted and all the other things that we talk about. And again, we have resources that cover a number of these topics on our site. And again, you can also find us on Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere you find your podcast, we are there. So you can have access to these resources. And the best and easiest way to do that is to go to enjoylifewithyourspouse.com. So, the way we put this resource together is in the form of a 14-day challenge. So you can go to our website and get a book. It's actually a PDF download. For a few dollars, you could have it and be able to go through this over a 2-week period. So you challenge yourself to take up one of these challenges every single day for 2 weeks. We did that. I think it was 2 years ago with our online community on Facebook, and went through the whole process. So today we're going to just get in the details of it to discuss it even deeper. So the first thing that I want to talk about is, why is friendship important in marriage? And I think I hinted on that, earlier on. That is the very thing that gets us into relationship, but then when we get into relationship, that tends to fall off. We describe it as the oil that makes things move smoothly in your relationship. That friendship element, it infuses moments of joy and laughter into your relationship. Think of your friend. When you meet friends, what do? When you meet friends, you don't meet friends to fight or argue or quarrel. The idea of meeting our friends is to maybe go and watch a movie, watch a game together, laugh, get caught up on things. Think about that, applying that same idea into your to your marriage. That when you're building friendship into your marriage, it's an opportunity for you to do and say things that will lift up the other person. It's an opportunity for you to grow and connect more deeply. So basically, laying down what friendship or why friendship is important in marriage is by saying that it's those moments that bring joy, laughter, excitement, and your joy of wanting to be with a person. There's a scripture we're reading in Proverbs 18:24 that says that a man that had friends must show himself friendly, and there's a friend that sticks closer than a brother. The only friend who sticks closer than a brother is Jesus Christ. But as we get into the details, or we connect more with our spouses through friendship, we will get to know our spouses even more than our own siblings. And that's another beauty of it, that somebody you met, a spouse that you met, that you started growing, you learn to connect more deeply with them. We also have spouses whom that we share our daily lives with. Our spouse is the person we share our daily life with, and our hope and prayer is that we find that true connection with our spouse as we go through this. So what's the first challenge? The first challenge that I'd like us to think about is play. Do you play together? Do you joke? Do you roll on the ground together just for fun? Do you dance together? Think of when you were a kid, how you went out to play with your friends and just have a ball. You just spent so much time outside. I used to play soccer with my friends when I was a kid, and they bring back so many memories. Not to talk about when we played soccer barefoot, and you always come home with a cut on your toe, and your mom will scream on top of her voice, "What did you do?" That we'll leave that for another day. But what I want to focus is the fun part. I guess we're having so much fun we couldn't even feel the pain. So that's what I'm talking about. That let us go back into playing. What does playing mean? Enjoying physical activity like walking or playing a board game or tennis. I like bike riding, and I've gotten my wife to ride bikes, go on bike ride writes with me. The most memorable one is when we went to Washington D.C. and rented some electric bikes, and we picked a safe route, and you get on that electric bike and you don't have to paddle a whole lot. You paddle a little bit, the motor kicks in and helps you propel up hills and difficult spots, and we had a great time, playing, just riding our bikes together. So go back to some of those things that you did. What does playing as a couple mean to you? What do you see yourself doing with your spouse when we talk about playing together? Think about these things and let that guide you. The least you can do is just play a board game, Monopoly, or whatever games that you're fond of playing. Now, the next thing I like to talk about is just talking. Do you make time to talk? And when you talk, what are the ground rules? What are the things that you talk about? Talk about things that you're grateful for. Talk about things that build your relationship. It's important that we talk, and there's another aspect of talking that we'll get into. But the other thing that I also want you to think about is that what do you see in the future? We'll talk about the future, where you want to see the two of you. So the first thing you talk about is the things that you're grateful for. Talk about the things that you're happy, that's working well. Too often we talk about the things that are not going well in our relationship, but it's important that we project into seeing the good, being grateful, counting our blessings. So once we've done that, then let's also focus on looking at where we want to see ourselves. What are your dreams and your goals for your relationship? Let's share those as well. And I'm not saying that we limit it there. There are other things you could talk about, but like where you are, where you currently are. We put together one of our shows on having a state of the union, where as a couple you talk about things that are going on in your relationship, and where you need help and where you need support. But for this, it's important that we talk about things that will help us to reach where we want to take our relationship. Yeah. So the next thing is kindness. Do you practice kindness? When you remember when you met as a couple and you were so deep in love, and you would do anything to support your spouse. One of the things that I believe that led you or propelled you to do those things was kindness, just being kind to your spouse. Kindness means that I'm going to look for things I can do to make life easier for my spouse. It could be doing something that you usually don't do, that you decide to do it just out of being generous and kind. You offer to go out of the way to do groceries for your wife because she's very busy with the children today. You go to pick up clothes from the cleaners, or just spending time with the children so your wife could get a nap. It's just being kind. Kindness could also mean that your husband said something you didn't like, but I'm not going to respond. I'm just going to keep quiet and be kind that way, so that we can all enjoy some peace and quiet in our relationship. So kindness is key. That is one of the elements that brought you together, because you were just kind. You could think of something that your wife wasn't even thinking about and do it just as a way of showing kindness. So let's go back to these elements that has really brought us to this point of celebrating our relationship. And as we get into these things, it's definitely going to help us to grow in our friendship, because friendship is a key aspect of our relationship, and we do not have to lose sight of that. This is Sunlight Radio Online. My name is Akwesi Apong, and we are talking about friendship in marriage, and we'll be right back. Hello again, and thanks for joining us today for our lesson on relationship. And as I introduced earlier, we are talking today about friendship in marriage. How are you developing your friendship in your relationship? Think of who your best friend is today. If you can come up with a name, who's your best friend? And what are some of the things you do with your best friend? You know, if you haven't heard from your best friend in a while, you reach out. You know, I'm sure during the day you probably might have sent a message to your best friend saying, "Hey, how are you? What are you doing this weekend?" You know, the same way, we want to challenge you to develop your friendship in your marriage. Developing friendship in your marriage also means that you think of things that both of you haven't done in a while and say, you know, we haven't gone for a walk in a while. Remember when we went for a walk at that park near the lake, and it was very refreshing. You go back to those feelings, those things that made you feel good about each other. So think of ways you can work to develop your friendship. And the last thing we talked about was kindness, just being kind to each other. You know, the next thing I'm going to touch on is laughter. How much do you laugh? How much time do you spend laughing? You know, it's an art that we are missing today, because now what you see happen with couples is everybody in their corner watching their own what is it, TikTok or videos from YouTube or what in their own corner. But we have to learn to laugh together, and that very tool that might be keeping you apart could bring you together. Why don't you both sit and watch something funny together, you know, or find jokes that you can share together. My wife and I love the Reader's Digest jokes. You know, my dad was a huge Reader's Digest fan, and that's one thing I picked up from him. We have a subscription, so we get our Reader's Digest, and among the other stories in there, we like the joke section. And just this past week, as you know, this week is Mother's Day week, and there was a resource that we shared with some married couples by Pastor Ted Cunningham. He's actually a very, very funny pastor, and he has a YouTube video which was done by Focus on the Family on making mothers laugh. And I think it's a resource I would highly recommend that you go to YouTube, look for it, and share some laughter together. You know, another resource also that I want to share is Mark Gango. His famous resource on the Tale of Two Brains. It's a very wonderful resource that if you're ready to have a good laugh, go get that. It's actually also on YouTube. You know, all these resources are free, but the key thing is that it's a great opportunity to get the two of you to share some laughs together. You know, you will find reason to make both of you laugh till your belly hurts. You know, you can also laugh at each other's mistakes, but you have to be sensitive not to cross a point. You know, we all do things that are funny. You know, we try to do something that won't go very well. I often tell a story of I don't know if you've watched this. I don't know if some of these things are telling you how long I've been watching some TV shows, but there's a TV show called it's a show that people bring in their videos. America's oh, I can't recollect, but anyway, people. Bob Saget used to host that show, and I think it fell on some other hosts, which I can't remember their name. But it used to be when Bob Saget used to host the show. There's a couple who brought in this video. I think it's America's Best of Home Videos or something like that, and the couple had a challenge that they had a song. If one of them sang that song, the other one had to dance. So the joke was on the husband. It was a day where it was raining, and the husband had to run out to put their trash in a bin outside. So when He took the trash, the bin, the trash outside. His wife locked the front door and started singing the song. So here's the husband standing in the rain, and guess what? He had to dance because that's what they had agreed on. So the wife pulled out the video camera, watching him, and started singing. So this guy is so upset, so mad in the freezing cold weather, and he had to dance. So he pulled himself out of being upset and started dancing. So his wife recorded this whole short video and set it in. Long story short, this video won the couple $100,000 because that's the goal of the show, that the best video wins $100,000. Can you imagine that laughter that this young couple decided to set certain things in place to laugh ended up awarding them $100,000? You know, laughter is good medicine, as they say. Find opportunities to laugh. Find opportunities to, make your days easy by sharing laughs together. If you hear a story that's funny, go home and share it with your spouse. Let them also get in on the laughter. But find opportunities to laugh and smile. Laughter is healthy. It has a good impact on your health as well. And I think from the resource we share this weekend, when you laugh, it actually helps you lose weight too, they say. So it's very important that we share time laughing and not taking life too serious. Laughter is very, very important. So let's turn the corner here. Let's get into something even more serious. One way we can build friendship in our relationship is forgiveness. I can't say this enough. There's a reason why the Bible talks about forgiving, 70 times 7, because just when you finish forgiving your spouse for something, he does or she does another thing that's worthy of forgiveness. And I can't say this enough, that it's very important that we learn to deal with issues, talk about issues, resolve them, ask for forgiveness or be forgiven, so that we can be free to move on with our lives. We can be free to enjoy our lives. Because forgiveness is one of those things that piles up over time and it develops into contempt. And the way it happens is that, your wife does something you don't want. You don't resolve it fully. You're still upset, but you move on. Somewhere in your heart or in your subconscious, it's still there. And over time, when this keeps happening, what happens is that when you see her, you're upset or you are mad, you have unforgiveness, but you've even forgotten how it even happened. You've even forgotten the event, whether it was because she didn't cook your food well, or it was because she left your forgot to pick up your clothes from the dry clean. You don't even remember the event that led to that. The only thing you remember is that you have hard feelings, you have unforgiveness, or you have bitterness towards your spouse. So let's deal with these issues. Let's get to the bottom of it. Let's ask for forgiveness. Let's forgive. Let's let it go. Because in the end, we also want to be forgiven. The Bible talks about the fact that when we were sinners, Christ died for us. Even in our sin, he died. We didn't deserve it, but he did it for us anyway. So it's important that the little we can do is to forgive the person we share a bed with, we're spending the rest of our lives with. Let's open our hearts to forgiveness, that forgiveness will flow in. And when you forgive somebody, truly, you're doing it for yourself. Somebody said, I don't know who, but said that unforgiveness is like taking a poison pill and expecting somebody else to die. If you are taking the pill, guess what? It won't affect any other person. So let's learn the art of forgiving, opening our hearts to forgive, no matter what. And I want to say this, that some of the issues might be very difficult issues that will require time to really arrive at forgiveness. Some of the issues will require getting professional help, like mentoring. Some of the issues might take time to get to, but what's important is that let's keep our eye on it. Let's know this is very important aspect of our relationship, and let's work towards forgiveness, because it's a huge part of how we are going to grow as a couple. It's a huge part of how we are going to thrive and enjoy our relationship with our spouse. Hope you are enjoying this and you're taking note of various aspects that can help you grow in friendship in your relationship. So, another thing I also want to talk about is help. How much do you help your spouse? It's such an easy, simple word. Can you help me? We use it all the time. I was helping my wife, but how purposeful are you in helping? When you talk about help, help goes beyond, the things that, the requests we get from our spouse. Can you help me lift this table? Can you help me pick up this item? But when I talk about help here, we're talking about the things that you think about and say, what can I do to help my spouse this weekend? What can I do to make my husband's day easy for him as he goes into, a special week, maybe something related to work? And he say, what can I do to really make it easy by helping him, making sure his meals are ready, making sure he has a shirt ready for work, or how can I keep the children quiet so that he can have his meeting, go through his meeting since he's working from home. We have to be purposeful. We have to think of the exact things we want to do to help our spouse. Help is very important. And on the other side, and I think we've hinted on this many times, that there's so many things that husbands can also do to help their wives. On weekends, I think when you have a house full of children, it's not very ideal to say, have a nice day, I've worked all week, I'm going to go play golf, or I'm going to go hang out with my friends. Whilst all those things are good, it's important that we plan some time in the day to offer help to our spouse. What are you going to do to help your wife this weekend? What are you going to do to help her through some of her goals? There are bigger things like if your wife decides to go back to school, how are you helping her to get through that? Maybe she wants to get her master's degree, and it's a big decision. It means that she's going to be busy through weekends, she's going to be busy sometimes in the evenings, and you might have to help with, putting kids to bed, or preparing meals, and all those things that make up life. You might have to sit down and make sure all the bills are up to date. These are the little things that when we don't pay attention to, it develops into things that sucks out all the friendship in our relationship. How many times haven't you gotten that call where your friend says, hey, we bought a house, we're moving, can you come help me? And we all go, I don't want to, but they are my friends, I'm going to go help. And, we drag ourselves, and, you go get that U-Haul truck and go and help your friend move. We do it for our friends, gladly, because they are our friends. Let's find ways of doing things to really make sure that we are helping our spouses, because we are doing life with them. We live with them, and it's very important that we invest time and attention and focus in making sure that we're offering help to our spouses. My name is Akwesi Opong. This is Sunlight Radio Online, and today we are talking about friendship in our relationship and in our marriages. We'll be right back. Hello again. This is Akwesi Opong on Sunlight Radio Online, and today we are talking about friendship in marriage. Are you still friends with your spouse, or is the friendship oil running out in your relationship? It's key that we find ways of bringing that back, and the reason is because friendship keeps the relationship moving smoothly. It's just like, changing your oil in your car. That friendship, it's really what we need to sustain the joy in our relationship. So let's keep that friendship going. And today our goal is to learn certain things that we can do as husbands and wives to really get friendship going. And so if you're just tuning in, as I always say, you can go back to our website where we host all these resources. It's enjoylifewithyourspouse.com. We're also on Facebook and YouTube, and also on Instagram as well. The same name, Enjoy Life with Your Spouse. We are happy to bring all of this to you to help you grow in your relationship. There is a scripture I want to share with you. It's Proverbs 27:9. It says, "A sweet friendship refreshes the soul." Think about this. Sweet friendship. Think of some of the best friends you've had when you were a kid. You couldn't wait to go out to play. And think of how it refreshed your soul. Even as adults, we have some friends. My wife and I have some friends now that every time we meet, we feel it's very refreshing. We can't wait to see them, spend time with them, get caught up with them, find out what is going, play some board games with them, which we've done. We've gone out to restaurants to eat with them, and it's just very refreshing. So think of not this friend not just being a friend, but being the person you also call your spouse. So let us foster the friendship in our relationship, because guess what? It's gonna refresh your soul. If a sweet friendship with a friend refreshes your soul, then think of what a sweet friendship with your spouse will do. It will actually refresh your entire life. So let us focus more in developing friendship in our relationship and growing these friendships, because it's really going to help us. It's going to help us grow and develop. Yeah. So as we move along in our discussion today, the next thing we would like to talk about is being real. I don't know if anyone will get into a friendship with somebody who you can tell the person is not very real. They are a little bit, I don't know what's the right word to use, but they're a little bit, they are not real in terms of what they say compared to how they live their lives. They're not very realistic. If you meet somebody like that, I think for you think twice about getting into some kind of friendship with a person, not to say even a relationship. So the point here I want to say is that we have to become real in our relationship as husband and wife. We have to let go of those things that prevents us from opening up. This requires us being vulnerable. Vulnerability means that it's okay for my spouse to see my mistakes. It's okay for me to fail. It's okay for me to get things wrong. And I won't be judged. I won't be criticized. And if you're on the other side, make sure that when your spouse fails, they make mistakes, you don't criticize them. Especially our wives. Wives, make sure that you are affirming your husbands and not criticizing them. That will really take the wind out of their sails in terms of their ability to be vulnerable. We have to make sure that we are not downplaying their shortcomings. The other side of being real is telling your spouse the truth about things that you're refusing to come to terms with, or things that you struggle with, or things that you need help with. This is not a competition where I'm trying to show that I'm tough, or I'm the man, or I can do everything in my relationship. But if I can do something, it's important to open up and say, you know what, I'm having a challenge in this area. I can really figure all these things out. Maybe it's doing taxes or whatever you can think of. It's important that you open up and talk about how you really feel. Be real about what is really going on, and that opens the door for empathy. That opens the door for a deeper connection. It will mean a lot to me if we can, watch how we spend money, or how much time you spend at work. That's an approach that a spouse could use to start talking about these issues. And being real means exposing things that will help you connect more with your spouse. So let's be real in the things that we do. Let's really show our hearts in all the things that we do. And I think that will open that door in helping us really connect well and really grow our friendship. The next thing is sacrifice. I can't say this enough. Sacrifice is very important. This is about giving up ourselves for our spouse, especially in small ways. A good example is how Jacob sacrificed to marry Rachel. That's a very interesting story in the Bible where, Jacob served Laban for 7 years thinking he was going to marry Rachel, and, there was a bait and switch that happened over there. And, how much Jacob loved Rachel means that he had to serve another 7 years. A lot of guys today will say, that's it, I'm gone. Just, take your daughter, I'm not interested. But this goes the extra mile where he served another 7 years just to marry the woman that he believed he really loved. That was sacrifice. The ultimate sacrifice is what Jesus did for us on the cross. I must say, he laid his life down for us. And the little we can do is the day-to-day sacrifices that we can also offer our spouse. So let us find ways we can sacrifice. And I think when I talk about sacrifice, it's not when you wait for your spouse to, your spouse is enjoying that cheesecake and it gets to that last one that has the crust and the filling and the cake, and she's ready to enjoy it, and you say, can I have it? I don't think that's what I mean by sacrifice, but maybe you could try that. But what I mean by sacrifice is knowing that you genuinely have to go out of your way to do things for your marriage, your wife, your children, even your family and your community. It goes all the way through all the people you have some kind of relationship with. So sacrificing means that I'm going to work harder. I'm going to listen more. I'm going to put away some of the things that, those short-term pleasures to really get to the big pleasures and the big enjoyments in life. Sacrificing means that I'm going to listen more. I'm going to turn off that TV and really listen to my wife talk because she wants to talk. There's so much we can do. It's a word we don't hear too much in our day today, but it's something we have to get back to. Sacrificing. It means we're giving up something that's very important to us in order to help our spouse achieve a goal, or to pull our spouse up. Sacrificing means a lot. Some couples have put together their own career goals to support their spouse in so many ways, and that is good sacrifice. So think of ways that when the opportunity comes for us to offer something, to sacrifice something for the good of our relationship, we'll be ready to answer the call. So it's a key part in building friendship in our relationship. So as we move along, I'm hoping that all these very important key points are helping us to really understand what it means to build friendship in our relationship. because it's a key part of what we need to do to make sure that our relationships are thriving. Let us focus on sacrificing. What can I sacrifice? What can I take out? Sometimes sacrificing will mean that, certain subscriptions that you have, for entertainment will have to go because that money has to be invested in other parts of your relationship. Maybe it has to go into your savings account or your retirement or to help pay your life insurance or fund your kids' college or something. That is also sacrifice. So let's think of all the things that we can do to ensure that we are laying something aside for the good of our relationship. So we're laying something aside to help us build our relationship, and that will help us to grow in so many ways. So the next thing is time. How do you build friendship with your time? We live in a day today where time is a precious commodity. Time has always been a precious commodity. But today, so many things pull us in so many different directions. How are we making time to build our relationship? Spend time with your spouse. Don't let work, friends, or the business of life steal time from your relationship. Be purposeful in spending time with each other. So, it means that among all the other things that we have on our schedule, among all the other things that we plan on doing, one of those things is going to be scheduling our spouse in there, making sure that you have it on your calendar. I wish I could show my cell phone to you right now. I have an item on my calendar, a reminder on my phone that pops up a certain day every week to remind me to do something for or with my spouse, with my wife. That's how important this is to me. And because I do realize that if we just let it be and say, I'm going to spend time with my spouse, it probably won't happen. And I'm not just saying this. It's important that, we use some of these tools that are at our hands to really make our relationship better. And one of those things is that reminder on your cell phone or that calendar on your cell phone that has the ability to remind you to do things. Let's schedule this very important thing into our day. My pastor had a lesson a couple of months ago, and he talked about how in a day we have 24 hours, and he gave 8 to 10 hours to work, and he gave maybe another hour for commuting, another hour for he gave another 8 hours, 7 hours for sleeping, hour for eating. And after he had taken out all the things that we do in our day, there was still about 2 to 3 hours left that we could invest in our relationship. It's sad to know that we take the other things before we talk about relationship. That's the irony. We have to start with relationship. We have to take our time. You know how financial experts tell you pay yourself first? When you get paid, do your investments, do your savings, and then pay the other things and see where it goes, that kind of thing. But it's important here that we not only looking at it in terms of taking out all the other things to see what is left, but that analogy our pastor gave really helped me to understand that while we do have time in our day to invest in our relationship. So knowing that, you have to decide that I'm going to start my day investing in my relationship. In the morning, even if it's 5 minutes to say a prayer together with your spouse before one heads out for the day, or maybe having breakfast together if you have the luxury of doing that, or just checking in with each other to see, what do you have planned for today? Well, do you have any meetings today? How does the day look like? Do you have any plans to meet up with friends today, or can we have a date night today? Talk about some of the things that impact you as husband and wife, and investing in that, even paying yourself before the day begins, will really set the time, the course of the day, because you're investing your time very, very well. I really like that analogy our pastor gave, and it really brought to light that, you know what, we do have time. If we really want to get things done and invest in our relationship, spend time with the people we care about, we do have time in a day to make it work. So let's plan it. Let's be more purposeful. Let's forecast. You know, a lot of us do very well in forecasting at our jobs, but we find it hard to focus when it comes to these things. But it's just a matter of putting our minds to it, and we should be able to do this. So let's make sure we're putting in that effort to ensuring that we are building that deep connection with our spouse through spending time. We will be right back. Thanks again for joining us. This is Sunlight Radio Online, and today we are talking about friendship in marriage. It's part of, I guess, some resources that my wife and I put together, and it's available on our website. If you go to www.enjoylifewithyourspouse.com, it's a PDF download you can invest in and take the challenge. As I said earlier, it's actually a 14-day challenge that you can take with your spouse to focusing on doing one thing a day for 14 days. And the goal of that is to introduce you, bring some new ideas and things that you can invest in. And we went on that short break saying that we do have time. You know, if we look closely, there is so much time in our day to really invest in our relationship. So let's not think there isn't time. Let's not make that excuse, because if we really look hard, we can find time to really do those things that are very, very important to us. So as we get to the end of this, the next thing we're going to talk about is checking in with each other. Checking in with each other, and I think I've hinted on this throughout this lesson today, that it's important that we every so often check in with our spouse to see how they are doing, you know, as part of the time, just like we do with our friends. You know, every so often my wife will say, oh, have you heard from our friend Bob? Oh, let's check in, let's see how they're doing, you know. And we'll pick up the phone and say, oh, you know, or maybe we call and say, have you heard from our friend Winifred? And, you know, we'll call and check on them and see how they're doing. So let's find a way of checking in with our spouse as well. You know, do you know you can be with somebody in the same house for weeks, months, and not even know what is really going on with the person? You know, and the irony is that we probably know what is going with that couple who is our friends, but we don't know all the details of what is going on in our own home. That does not spell friendship to me at all. So the goal here is for us to find a way of checking in with each other. I gave a reference to one of our resources on our website. Is the one on State of the Union. I want you to go back and listen to that if you have some time, and I'm sure you do have time, as we've just talked about time. But anyway, that gives you an idea as to some of the things we can do to make sure that we know where each other is. We know what is going on, where our thought processes. Just this past week, there was a podcast I listened to, and you know, just to let you know, even though we do podcasts, I listen to a lot of podcasts too, because I believe that The doctor also needs a doctor. The pastor also needs a pastor. We all learn from somewhere, and we all, have to build our knowledge and our skills and grow. So I do listen to a lot of podcasts myself, and there was one I listened to where I think believe was on focus on the family, and the speaker was talking about how he has this process with his wife where at the end of every day they talk about wins, one win and one loss. So the way they do it is that at the end of the day they meet together for 5 minutes, maybe sometime before bed, and say, what were some losses today? What happened today that didn't really measure up? What happened today that made you sad or made you feel defeated or deflated? Whether it was at work, at home, whether you caused it or whatever it was. That's an opportunity to talk about it. And while she's doing that, the other spouse has to be quiet to listen. So the spouse will say that, and then the next question will be, what are some of the wins? What is something that happened today that was great? You were so excited. Maybe you were able to solve a problem at work, or you got a great recommendation at work, or you got a raise, or your team really were able to submit all their reports before the end of the month, or it could be simple things that we are grateful for. Like, a win could be, today our children did all their homework, we didn't ask them to, or our children cleaned the home, anything that really brought joy and excitement to you. It's actually something that it's a win. So let's try this. We can learn this from this couple, that every day, as often as you can do this, share a win, something that went well, something that didn't go very well. And the things that didn't go well help us to really know where we are, or know where your spouse is in terms of their emotions, and it helps you to know how to connect with them, or how to encourage them, or how to support them. So let's always share a win and also a loss. They help us to grow as a couple. So as we move along and talking about building friendship, as we talked about checking in with each other, the next thing I'd like to touch on is overlooking mistakes. And I think this some way has a bearing with forgiveness, which we talked about earlier. As you know by now, we all have faults, and we are sure that there'll be times where your spouse will say or do something that will fall short of love. So the challenge here is that we have to sit down and think of some of the mistakes that our spouse often does. From today you can almost say with certainty that there's one particular thing that tomorrow your wife, when she has to do it, won't do it the way you want it, and same with your husband as well. And in saying that, know that when that happens, you're going to overlook it. You're going to say it's okay. We're all not perfect. It's easy for us to say that, but it's difficult when we see the faults and mistakes of our spouses, or when they fall short of doing things that doesn't meet our expectations. Let us learn to overlook it. There's a small book my wife often talks about, that don't sweat the small stuff. Those are some of the small stuff. Let's just let it go. And the funny thing, those things are probably the very thing that made you fall in love with your spouse. It's really interesting how maybe you're a guy and you met your spouse and she always had very nice makeup done and you just love it, but after you got married you realize, wow, it takes 45 minutes just to put up that makeup. It's the very thing that you loved. It's now become something that a pet peeve, or something that really makes you uncomfortable when you have to go out. But that's an opportunity for you to say, can I set the table for you? Can I bring your collection of makeup to maybe shave some 10 minutes of the time? Or maybe I can, you put it on, I'll tell you what works. You can get into it with her to see how you can help her or be with her, connect with her. That's an opportunity for connection. I'm not saying you're going to rush her through making her makeup, or it's not going to look nice. But the point here is that you are going to be by her side instead of sitting down there upset waiting for her because she's taking too long. You can be by her and say, can I help make it better? Can I watch how you do it? And that will be a source of encouragement for her as well. So let us overlook mistakes and let us make sure that we are focusing on the things that are going well. The next thing, as we round up today, I like to talk about is connecting. How do you connect? Connecting means checking to learn the state of affairs in your relationship. Connecting means that you understand the emotional state of your relationship or your spouse. Where are they emotionally? Connecting means that you want to know how their day went, or you want to know what you can do to help them get better. What does connecting means to you? Connecting means listening. Connecting means being patient. We can go on and on and on. Learn to connect with your spouse. Learn to connect. In these days we have electric cars. And one thing that those of you who have electric cars have, which I don't have yet, is that after you've driven a couple of miles, it has to connect to some source of power to get charged so that you can keep driving the car. If you fail to do that, you know what? It's going to leave you somewhere you don't want to be left alone in a car, with no source of power. So you always have to come back to a certain location to connect. And that's what electric cars do. You have to know where the charging stations are. So you're not just driving, but after a couple of miles, you know that I have to find a charging station within 20 miles from where I am, so I can plug it in for about 2 hours and get that charge up. And it's the same with our cell phones, which we all have. At the end of the day, we all look for that charger, plug it in, make sure that it's fully charged. It's the same way. We have to connect as couples to make sure that we are connected. We know what is going on in each other's life. You know how you can do to help your spouse grow and develop. So connecting is very, very important. So we hope that you have picked up some ideas today to really help you to develop friendship in your relationship, to help you to build that that very element of those elements that help you fall in love in the first place. We hope that this is going to set the stage for you to have a wonderful relationship as you continue to enjoy your marriages together. We look forward to having you again. Thank you for making time to join us, and we are very excited for all the wonderful things that is going on in your relationship. So we look forward to seeing you again. Make sure that you are indeed enjoying life with your spouse.